Wow, we thought Dominic was slowing down on the river. Instead, he check raises all in.
Well, Dominic Panka's all in, I know that.
Yes.
Huh? What is Fatima De Melo going to do? And what do they even have? Don't worry, we're going to put the cards up for the video. You're going to find out. Not an issue.
Yeah.
Fatima, of course, famous field hockey player.
Yes.
I mean, I never thought those words would come out of my mouth, but they just did.
Well, in America, we don't really have famous field hockey players.
We really don't.
Maybe in some other countries, the field hockey players are more famous.
Do we even have field hockey?
Yes, we have field hockey.
All right, fine.
We absolutely have field hockey.
All right, well, so these two players, this is Dominic Panka and Fatima De Melo. They're playing at the PokerStars Championship, or one of the main events anyway. We're early on in the money, but of course there's always a lot on the line in one of these, and this is an interesting spot.
A check shove on the river is almost always an interesting spot, and that's probably why it was suggested on Twitter by Louis Enrique. Thank you, Louis. Use this Twitter handle to suggest any hand that you want to suggest to us and include a YouTube link.
Fantastic. Now, before we get to the hand itself, we want to thank the people who made it possible for us to even present this video to you. That's Nitrogen Sports Poker, where the poker guys play.
Right, and every month we have a very cheap tournament like this is how much it costs, and the overlay is like this.
Whoa.
It's a huge overlay. It's free money for you. All you got to do is use the link in the description of this video when you sign up, and you get to play in those tournaments. By the way, we play them too.
Yeah, by the way, of course, this is a Bitcoin-only poker site, which has lots of benefits. You probably know them by now. Super fast transactions, whatever. You know how it works. We'll see you there.
So 13 minutes on the clock, 13 minutes till the next break.
Dominic Panka, Skynet. Makes it 11,000.
Fatima has called in the cutoff.
How many times can I get away with calling her Fatima? Was that the last one? Was that it? Because I kind of wanted to do that anyway before she talked about it so much today. Dominic continues.
12,000. Second barrel coming from Dominic. Fires 30,000 into 57,500. Once again, Fatima calls King of Hearts on the river. Not an insignificant card. Flush now possible. It's a paired board.
Dominic finally slows down. Fatima's going to fire.
117,500 in the pot. A fistful of blue from Fatima. Those are the 5K chips. She's made it 50,000. Less than half pot.
Less than half pot sounds like a bet she wants to get called. My CPU is a neural net processor. Ooh, a learning computer.
Wow, we thought Dominic was slowing down on the river. Instead, he check raises all in.
Dominic raised under the gun. Queen certainly within his range. King, queen. I don't know how many flushes he's got in his range. Since under the gun, he'd mostly be raising ace kings and ace queens. I guess ace jack suited is a possibility.
Thank you, Taheshi, for pointing out they did start this hand with 102 players, and now we're down to 96. So 6 players were eliminated during the course of this hand. 10-second countdown, and Fatima calls.
Well, we're going to see him. Dominic shows king, queen for the full house, as I suspected, but Fatima had aces.
All right, we all know losing with aces sucks. But did it have to get this big? Did it have to go down this way?
Probably not.
A lot of reasons it probably didn't have to. Let's get right into it, okay?
Okay.
All right, so Fatima, I think, is falling victim to something that happens to a lot of players where she's under-repped her hand pretty much the entire time. I mean, she can't really do anything but call the flop in the turn when the queens are paired on the flop. So those are reasonable, not necessarily under-rep, but pre-flop, she massively under-repped her hand.
Yes. No question about it.
She's thinking about that the whole time, clearly.
I mean, it's understandable. And once Dominic checks the river, it's very close between whether she should bet or check herself. If Dominic could absolutely have hit a king here on the river and be checking.
But would he call a bet? That's the question, because what is she betting?
It's a fair question. It's hard to come up with very much. But he'd at least have to consider calling a bet. And it's not crazy to try and squeeze a little value out of a good king there.
All right, which kings does he have?
Ace, king?
Yeah, did he bet the flop and the turn with that?
Hard to say that he, maybe?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
He'd have to be bluffing.
2 hearts.
It'd have to be a hand with no showdown value, something like king, jack of spades. 2 hearts, by the way, is a flush and is impossible to have.
Yeah, it's the king of hearts on the river. Yeah, okay. Well, this is the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think Fatima should bet even.
Yeah, because the thing is this. He can have a queen himself and be checking because the heart comes in. He can have ace queen. That's a big problem for betting with aces here.
It's a really big problem. I don't think Penk is going to call off with a king, but that's not the big thing. The big thing is he doesn't really have any kings in his range as played. I mean, there's 2 queens on the board. Those are clearly in Fatima's range. The flush came in as we game. I mean, what is Dominic really betting on the flop and the turn that has a king in it?
I mean, look, he could decide that Fatima has like 2 sevens.
Okay.
And she called once on the flop because it was a queen-queen 4 flop, and then he bets again on the turn to try and get her off it, right?
Yeah.
And so he has king jack or something like that, and then he rivers a king. Like, it's not impossible.
And then he's going to call if she bets?
Well, I don't think he is.
Because Fatima's not really going to bet 2 sevens on this heart river, right? I mean, is Dominic's under the gun range? What does he have? 2 tens? I don't think he's really going to have 2 tens the way he played it so far.
Yeah, it's unlikely. I mean, there's not very much there. I'll give you that. There's very, very little there. But the thing is this. It's one thing to decide to bet your aces when it's checked to you, right?
It is. It's a bad thing.
I feel like you could at least make a case for that. You obviously feel it's terrible no matter what.
I do.
I think it's at least, it's because you've under-repped your hand so strongly, it's not the end of the world. But let's talk about the much bigger mistake here.
Okay.
Which is Dominic check raises. Dominic says, I'm all in, and it's for a lot more. And Fatima doesn't fold on this board after this line. What is going on?
She got caught in the under-repped thought. That must be it, because what the hell is Dominic doing this with?
I don't know.
He opened under the gun. This is key. Remember, he opened under the gun. He has the strongest range that he can possibly have. He bet the flop and he bet the turn. I think the bottom of his range here that he moves in with is the nut flush. And it's key, as Fatima, by the way, that we do not have the ace of hearts in our hand.
I agree.
We do not block the nut flush. We don't think Panka really has any other flushes in his range with this board because he opened under the gun. It's very rare for him to, at least. And if he did, he probably wouldn't check shove, so we're not really thinking about those.
Is it possible Fatima thinks like the opposite because she doesn't have the ace of hearts in her hand? That means he can have it.
Right.
So, but the problem is then what ace of hearts does he have that he's turning into a bluff here? Ace jack off?
I don't think he's
ace king off and he's turning it into a bluff?
I don't think he's going to turn ace king off and do a bluff. He's either going to
either.
call or fold. Ace jack off is questionable to open under the gun in the first place. And if he had, would he have gone bet with it?
It's unlikely. I don't think we can say, you know, for sure he would not have gone bet with any hand, but it's very unlikely he'd bet twice without something when she calls on the flop, right?
All right.
He's usually going to give up on the turn.
So the argument goes both ways for not having the ace of hearts for Fatima.
Yes.
One, we know that we do not block the nut flush blocker, but we also don't block the nut flush, which is a bit of an issue.
Yes.
Of course, there are also full houses to worry about.
Yes, there are. And, you know, as Fatima, we can't even beat a queen.
No.
Now, it's hard to imagine.
Panka's not going to check shove a queen.
That's what I was just going to say. Even ace queen, he's not going to check shove. So he's really repping, as Grant said, the nut flush or better here. Usually better.
Yeah,
like,
usually kings full, king queen, or quad queens.
King's full feels like the hand to me. And it turns out it's king queen, but king's full makes a lot of sense. He really might bet kings on the turn as well. He might not. He might check it. But he might decide to bet it, trying to get value out of all the pocket pairs that Fatima could still have.
Here's another problem for Fatima.
Yeah.
She is completely uncapped with this bet.
Right.
When she bets the river, she is totally uncapped. Panka can't really bluff here. It's kind of suicidal to bluff here. I don't see any way you can really do it because if you have one block, you have to have the ace of hearts and a queen and decide that's a blocker, and that's beating aces anyway.
I mean, why would you do that? I mean, that is like, that's some David Peters stuff right now. You're like doing some serious, deep, impressive stuff. And Panka is a great player, but you just don't often need to do it with a hand that strong where you yourself block almost everything, right? The other thing, coming back to aces not being a great hand here, Fatima absolutely can show up with so many better hands. We don't have to call off with this one pair hand on this board after this line by Panka. Just seems suicidal.
It really does, because to be clear, Fatima has king-queen in her range.
Yes.
We may not know it as Panka, but Fatima knows that she has two kings in her range.
Yes.
That means that she is uncapped, and Panka is deciding to do this anyway when the third heart comes. Fatima could easily have the nut flush.
I mean, what's the bottom of Fatima's betting range? It might be aces. Like, what hand is she betting any king if it checks to her?
How does she have a king?
I don't know, but if somehow
she's heroed with ace king all the way down and then decides to bet.
Yeah, it's really hard to come up with any king she could have, though. She's not betting jacks.
No, of course not.
So aces is the very, very bottom of her value betting range, and you don't think it should even be in there. I think it's admittedly quite questionable as well. Don't get me wrong. So how can we call off with this too? We're supposed to slice out the bottom of that range when we're deciding what to call with the check raise.
This is a train wreck.
The better part of our range, not the worst part of it.
This river is just a train wreck.
Yes. Maybe she thought she had a tell?
Maybe.
Dominic Panka doesn't really have tells.
No, he doesn't.
All right, people, let us know what you think about some of Fatima's decisions in the comments. So she decides to bet her aces on the river. Grant hates it. I'm pretty down on it too. But of course, then she calls the check raise all in. Can you justify this? Do you think it's ultimately a good play or a bad play? Let us know down there. We're looking forward to see what you have to say.
Good luck justifying that, guys. I mean, I hope you can figure out something that we didn't, because
Maybe
that would be really cool. It would be really interesting. Now, slow-played big pairs can be problems for even great players like Doyle Brunson, and we saw that happen in a really interesting hand on high-stakes poker. Click right up there to check it out.
It involves Daniel Negreanu and David Benjamin.
Yeah.
Ooh, luminaries.
Yes, they're luminous.
They are.
They are very bright. They shine brightly.
Now, if you want to know where we come to all these ideas and how we sort of figure this all out, we actually do a podcast about this hand. It's about 45 minutes long. It's called The Breakdown, presented by the Poker Guys. It's where we hash this whole thing out.
I wasn't even sure Fatima should call the turn, by the way. And if you want to hear why, check out the podcast.
Yeah, we really get into it, as we always do on that show. Also, lots of jokes.
Yes.
I'd like to say that. And if you like this channel, make sure you subscribe to our,
channel.
Yeah.